Commander Zephyrian adjusted his elongated neck as he studied the data streaming across his bioluminescent display panel. The third planet from this yellow star had shown promising signs of intelligent life, but the initial scans suggested a species that barely qualified for galactic attention. The inhabitants appeared to be bipedal mammals, relatively small in stature, with no visible natural weapons like claws, fangs, or armored hide. "Fascinating," muttered Dr. Kelthra, the expedition's xenobiologist, her forearms working simultaneously across multiple control surfaces. "These creatures have developed technology despite lacking any obvious predatory adaptations. Look at their dental structure, mostly flat grinding surfaces with only vestigial pointed teeth. Their forward-facing eyes suggest some predatory ancestry, but they're clearly evolved herbivores now." Zephyrian nodded, his species' natural calm demeanor unchanged. The Zelithians had earned their place as the galaxy's premier explorers through careful observation and peaceful contact protocols. Their own evolutionary path from prey species to spacefaring civilization made them uniquely qualified to approach potentially dangerous worlds with appropriate caution. "Begin." "Standard peaceful contact procedures," Zephyrian commanded. "Target the largest population centers." These humans appear to have organized into tribal groupings across their landmasses. "We'll start with what appears to be their most advanced settlements." The ship's AI, synthesized from thousands of peaceful first contact scenarios, immediately began broadcasting mathematical sequences and basic symbolic communications toward the planet's surface. Within hours, responses came flooding back, not just from one location, but from hundreds of sites across the globe. "Remarkable cooperative behavior," Dr. Kelthra observed. "They're sharing information about our presence across vast distances almost instantly. This level of species-wide coordination typically indicates a prey species that evolved sophisticated warning systems." The first face-to-face contact occurred in what the humans called New York City. A delegation of humans approached their landing site with careful, measured steps. Zephyrian noted their soft, pink skin, their obvious physical vulnerability, and their lack of any natural defensive capabilities. The lead human, who introduced himself as Secretary of State Morrison, spoke in calm, measured tones through their universal translator. "Welcome to Earth," Morrison said, his posture relaxed and non-threatening. "We hope this meeting marks the beginning of a peaceful relationship between our peoples." Dr. Kelthra quietly documented the interaction. These humans displayed classic prey species behavioral patterns: group cooperation, careful non-aggressive positioning, and immediate attempts to establish peaceful intentions. Their clothing appeared to be purely decorative, offering no protective value. Most telling of all, they showed no visible weapons or aggressive displays. Over the following weeks, cultural exchange programs began in earnest. The humans were eager to learn about galactic civilization, sharing their own cultural achievements with genuine enthusiasm. They showed the aliens their art galleries, their libraries, their universities. Everything pointed to a species that had channeled aggressive impulses into creative and intellectual pursuits. Zephyrian found himself particularly intrigued by their entertainment media. The humans seemed obsessed with stories of conflict, but always framed in moral terms with clear distinctions between heroes and villains. Their fictional warriors were always fighting to protect the innocent or defend their homes. "Classic prey species fantasy displacement," he concluded. "They're perfect candidates for protected species status," Dr. Kelthra reported to the Galactic Council during their regular transmission. "Technologically advanced enough to be useful, but completely non-threatening. Their physical limitations and peaceful nature make them ideal for integration into our civilization as a client species." The Galactic Council's response was swift and positive. Earth would be offered membership as a protected world, with the humans serving as researchers, artists, and cultural contributors to the greater galactic community. It was a generous offer. Most new species required centuries of probationary periods before gaining such status. However, the negotiations revealed the first puzzling inconsistency in the human behavioral profile. When Zephyrian presented the council's offer to Secretary Morrison, the human's expression shifted subtly. The alien had learned enough about human facial expressions to recognize what they called a smile, but this particular smile seemed somehow different from the ones he had observed during previous cultural exchanges. "We're honored by the offer," Morrison replied carefully, "but we'd like to discuss this with our global leadership before making any commitments. You understand that a decision of this magnitude requires input from all our nations." Zephyrian found this reasonable, if unusual. Most prey species eagerly accepted protection from stronger galactic powers. The brief delay seemed to indicate nothing more than their typical cooperative decision-making process. It was Dr. Kelthra who first noticed the anomalies in Earth's historical records. While reviewing human cultural development, she discovered references to something called military history that didn't align with their peaceful prey species classification. The humans apparently maintained detailed records of conflicts between their tribal groups. But when she inquired about these wars, the human archivist seemed almost embarrassed. "Oh, that's all ancient history," explained Dr. Sarah Chun, the human liaison assigned to their cultural research. "We've moved beyond such primitive behaviors. Modern civilization focuses on cooperation and mutual benefit." Yet the records were extensive and detailed, covering thousands of years of organized conflict. More puzzling still, the level of strategic sophistication displayed in these historical accounts suggested a cognitive capacity for coordinated aggression that seemed at odds with their current peaceful demeanor. "Perhaps they've simply evolved beyond their aggressive phase," Zephyrian suggested when Dr. Kelthra shared her findings. "Many species experience evolutionary pressure to become more cooperative as their technology advances. Internal conflict becomes too costly to maintain." This explanation satisfied most of the research team, but Dr. Kelthra continued her investigation into human historical records. What she found in the archives of something called the Pentagon changed everything. The building itself was unremarkable, a simple geometric structure in what the humans called Washington, D.C., but the historical records housed within painted a picture of coordinated violence and strategic thinking that defied every assumption the aliens had made about human nature. She discovered accounts of conflicts involving something called Americans, apparently a subset of the human species that inhabited a large landmass on Earth's western hemisphere. These Americans seem to have taken the human capacity for organized conflict and refined it to an almost artistic level. The records spoke of campaigns across multiple continents, coordinated assaults involving millions of individuals, and strategic planning that spanned entire decades. Most disturbing of all, these Americans appeared to have developed an almost pathological dedication to what they called winning. Dr. Kelthra's tentacles twitched nervously as she read account after account of American military operations. They had fought wars simultaneously on multiple fronts across vast distances. They had developed weapons capable of destroying entire cities. They had created organizations dedicated solely to the study and application of violence, but most unsettling was the pattern she began to recognize in their strategic approach. Americans didn't simply fight to defend themselves, they fought to completely eliminate threats. They studied their enemies' weaknesses with scientific precision. They adapted their tactics based on lessons learned from previous conflicts. They innovated new methods of warfare with the same enthusiasm other species applied to art or philosophy. And through it all, they maintained the same calm, cooperative demeanor that had impressed the alien visitors during first contact. Dr. Kelthra realized with growing horror that what she had interpreted as peaceful evolution was actually something far more dangerous. The humans hadn't moved beyond their capacity for violence. They had simply learned to control it with terrifying precision. She thought back to Secretary Morrison's subtle smile during their negotiations, the careful positioning of human delegations during meetings, the way human leaders seemed to know exactly what to say to put their alien visitors at ease. These weren't the behaviors of a peaceful prey species. These were the behaviors of a predator species that had learned perfect camouflage. As Dr. Kelthera prepared her emergency report to the Galactic Council, she couldn't shake the feeling that Earth's acceptance into the galactic community wasn't going to unfold the way anyone had expected. The humans had been studying their alien visitors just as carefully as the aliens had been studying them. And if the historical records were any indication, Americans in particular had a very specific way of dealing with new territories and the opportunities they presented. The emergency transmission to the Galactic Council never reached its destination, Dr. Kelthera discovered, this 12 hours after sending what she believed was the most critical intelligence report of her career. The ship's communication array showed all systems functioning normally, but subsequent attempts to contact the Council resulted in the same mysterious silence. "Commander," she approached Zephyrian with barely controlled anxiety, her forearms trembling slightly. "We have a serious problem." Zephyrian looked up from his daily reports with characteristic Zelithian calm. "The humans have been nothing but cooperative, Doctor." "What could possibly... Our communications are being intercepted?" Dr. Kelthera interrupted, something she had never done in 15 years of service. "Every transmission we send is being monitored and filtered." "We're not the observers here, Commander. We're being observed." Before Zephyrian could respond, their ship's internal communication system activated with a gentle chime. The voice that emerged spoke perfect Zelithian, with native pronunciation and cultural inflections that should have been impossible for any human to master in such a short time. "Commander Zephyrian." "Dr. Kelthera, this is General Patricia Rodriguez, United States Space Command. Would you please report to Conference Room Delta for an immediate briefing? Your security escort is waiting outside your quarters." Dr. Kelthera's bioluminescent skin patterns shifted to deep purple, the Zelithian equivalent of pale terror. "How do they know our language? How do they know our names? How are they inside our ship?" The security escort turned out to be two humans in strange uniforms, neither of whom seemed particularly large or threatening. They moved with an easy confidence that Dr. Kelthera now recognized as distinctly predatory. One of them, a female with short-cropped hair and alert eyes, smiled pleasantly as they approached. "Good morning. I'm Sergeant Chun, and this is Corporal Williams. If you'd follow us, please. The General is looking forward to meeting you." The walk through their own ship revealed modifications that should have been impossible. Human technology had been seamlessly integrated into Zelithian systems. Monitoring equipment hummed quietly in alcoves that hadn't existed the day before. Most disturbing of all, human personnel moved through the corridors with the familiarity of longtime residents. Conference Room Delta had been completely transformed. Where once stood Zelithian meditation crystals and bioluminescent displays, human technology now dominated the space. Multiple screens showed real-time data streams, star charts, and what appeared to be detailed schematics of not just their ship, but of every vessel in the Zelithian exploration fleet. General Rodriguez sat at the head of a table that definitely hadn't been there before. She was a compact woman with graying hair and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of her alien guests within seconds of their arrival. When she stood to greet them, Dr. Kelthera noticed something that made her stomach turn. The General's movements were economical, precise, and carried an undertone of contained violence that prey species learned to recognize at a genetic level. "Please, sit down," Rodriguez said, gesturing to chairs that had been sized perfectly for Zelithian physiology. "I apologize for the dramatic circumstances, but we need to have an honest conversation." Zephyrian found his voice first. "General Rodriguez, I must protest this violation of diplomatic protocol. Your people have illegally modified our vessel and intercepted our communications." "Actually," Rodriguez interrupted gently, "you'll find that your people volunteered this information freely. Sergeant Chen here has been part of your cultural exchange program for the past 3 weeks. She's quite gifted with languages." Dr. Kelthera stared at the woman who had been serving as their human liaison. The same Dr. Sarah Chun who had seemed so embarrassed about humanity's military history. who had claimed they had evolved beyond such primitive behaviors. "You lied to us," Dr. Kelthera whispered. "No," Sergeant Chun replied, her tone remaining friendly but somehow becoming infinitely more dangerous. "I told you exactly what you wanted to hear. You assumed that our peaceful behavior meant we were incapable of violence. That was your mistake, not our deception." General Rodriguez activated one of the wall displays. "Let me show you what you're really dealing with here." The screen filled with a three-dimensional map of local space, showing not just Earth, but the positions of every known Zelithian vessel within 50 light-years. Red indicators marked what the aliens suddenly realized were weapons signatures, human weapons, somehow deployed without any of their ships detecting the process. 3 weeks ago, you offered Earth-protected status in the Galactic Council, Rodriguez continued conversationally. You assumed we were a primitive species in need of guidance and protection. That assumption was based on our appearance, our behavior during first contact, and your own species' evolutionary bias toward recognizing certain behavioral patterns. Another display activated, showing detailed psychological profiles of every member of the Zelithian crew. Personal histories, behavioral patterns, even biological vulnerabilities, all cataloged with scientific precision. Americans in particular have a long history of dealing with entities that underestimate us, Rodriguez said. We've refined the process to an art form. Step 1. Let them think they understand what they're dealing with. Step 2. Gather intelligence while they're feeling confident. Step 3. Reveal the actual situation when it's too late for them to respond effectively. Dr. Kelthera's worst fears crystallized as she realized the scope of what had happened. The entire first contact scenario. You manipulated every aspect of our initial observations. Not manipulated, Corporal Williams spoke for the first time, his voice carrying a slight Southern American accent. We just didn't correct your assumptions. Y'all wanted to see peaceful herbivores, so that's what we showed you. Meanwhile, every interaction gave us more data about your technology, your psychology, and your civilization's standard operating procedures. Zephyrian struggled to maintain his composure. What do you want from us? General Rodriguez smiled, and Dr. Kelthera finally understood why that expression had seemed so unsettling during their diplomatic meetings. It wasn't the smile of a peaceful species seeking friendship. It was the smile of a predator that had successfully cornered its prey. We want exactly what you offered us, Rodriguez replied. Membership in the Galactic Council. Access to interstellar trade routes, integration into galactic civilization, but we want it as equals, not as protected pets. The Council will never, Zephyrian began. The Council will accept our application enthusiastically, Rodriguez interrupted, because they're going to understand that the alternative is significantly worse for everyone involved. She activated another display, this one showing detailed specifications. For human weapons technology, Dr. Kelthera's bioluminescent patterns shifted to emergency orange as she recognized energy, signatures that exceeded anything in the Zelithian military. Database. You see, Rodriguez continued, Americans have this cultural quirk where we really don't like being told what we can and can't do. When someone offers us a limited role in their organization, we tend to respond by demonstrating why giving us a larger role would be in everyone's best interest. The implications hit Dr. Kelthera like a physical blow. You're threatening the entire Galactic Council. Not threatening, Sergeant Chun corrected. Offering an alternative perspective. Right now, Earth is positioned to become either the Council's most valuable ally or its most persistent problem. The choice is entirely up to them. Corporal Williams activated a tactical display showing human military assets that somehow now surrounded every major Zelithian colony world. See, the thing is, Americans don't just prepare for one outcome. We prepare for every possible outcome. While y'all were studying our cultural artifacts and feeling good about your peaceful contact protocols, we were studying your infrastructure and developing contingency plans. General Rodriguez stood, her movement causing both aliens to instinctively step backward. Your species made one critical error in judgment. You assume that because we don't look like predators and we don't act aggressively during initial contact, we must be incapable of coordinated violence. But the most successful predators in any ecosystem are the ones their prey never see coming. Dr. Kalthara found herself thinking about Earth's historical records, about the accounts of American strategic thinking she had discovered in the Pentagon archives. The long-term planning, the multi-generational strategic thinking, the absolute commitment to achieving objectives regardless of the complexity involved. "How long have you been planning this?" she asked. "Americans started preparing for extraterrestrial contact in 1947, Rodriguez replied matter-of-factly. "We've had contingency plans for this exact scenario for over 70 years. Every possible first contact situation, every potential alien psychology, every conceivable technological advantage they might possess. We've wargamed all of it." Zephyrin's legs gave out, and he slumped into his chair. "You've been preparing to conquer galactic civilization since before you even knew it existed." "Not conquer," Sergeant Chun said, her tone remaining conversational despite the magnitude of what she was describing. "Join as equal partners. There's a difference. We're not interested in ruling anyone. We're interested in making." The Galactic Council's emergency session convened, exactly 72 hours after. Dr. Kalthara's report finally reached them through channels that bypassed human interception. Representatives from 12 species gathered in the crystal amphitheater of Nexus Prime, their various forms of agitated communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and bioluminescent flashes. High Chancellor Vorthak, a towering crystalline being whose species had founded the Council 3 millennia ago, called for order with a resonant chime that echoed through the chamber. "We face an unprecedented situation," his translated voice proclaimed. "A pre-contact species has apparently developed capabilities that rival our most advanced civilizations." Ambassador Quillith of the Hive Worlds spoke first, her insectoid features clicking with agitation. "The Zealothian reports are clearly exaggerated. No primitive species could achieve such rapid technological integration without our detection. This Earth cannot possibly pose a significant threat to galactic stability." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Council had overseen peaceful integration of over 4,000 species across 3 galaxy arms. Their protocols were time-tested and virtually infallible. A single world, regardless of its inhabitants' apparent cunning, could hardly threaten an organization that commanded the resources of dozens of star systems. High Chancellor Vorthak was preparing to call for a formal vote on Earth status when the Chamber's communication system activated with an incoming transmission request. The source identifier showed an impossible reading. Earth, Sol System, transmitted through channels that shouldn't have existed. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," a human voice spoke in perfect Council common. "This is President Sarah Mitchell of the United States of America. Representing the sovereign nation-states of Earth, we formally request permission to address this assembly." The chamber fell silent except for the nervous chittering of Quillith's species. No non-member had ever addressed a council session directly. The communication protocols alone required technologies that Earth supposedly didn't possess. Chancellor Vorthak's crystalline form pulsed with uncertainty. "This transmission is impossible. Earth lacks the quantum entanglement networks necessary for real-time galactic communication." "With respect, Chancellor, our scientists achieved quantum entanglement communication 3 months ago," President Mitchell replied calmly. "We've been monitoring Council transmissions and learning your protocols while waiting for an appropriate moment to introduce ourselves formally." A new voice joined the transmission, speaking with the casual confidence that Dr. Kalthara now recognized as distinctly American. "This is Admiral James Harrison, United States Space Force. Council members, please direct your attention to the tactical displays in your chamber." Every holographic projector in the amphitheater activated simultaneously, showing a real-time map of local space with unprecedented detail. Council members gasped, whistled, or made their species equivalent of shocked expressions as they recognized the tactical situation. Human vessels surrounded every major council world. Not primitive ships cobbled together from reverse-engineered alien technology, but sophisticated warships that somehow registered as more advanced than anything in the Council's military database. Worse yet, these ships had achieved their positions without triggering a single early warning system. How is this possible? Ambassador Quilath's translator struggled with her species' agitated clicking. Your civilization achieved spaceflight less than 100 years ago. Admiral Harrison's chuckle carried an undertone that made several prey species in the chamber instinctively move away from the communication array. Ma'am, Americans put a man on our moon 56 years before your people made first contact. We've been preparing for this conversation for longer than some of your species have had written language. President Mitchell's voice resumed control of the transmission. Members of the Council, Earth respectfully requests immediate consideration for full voting membership. We believe our capabilities and perspective will prove valuable to galactic civilization. Chancellor Vorthok's form shifted to deep red, indicating severe stress. Your military positioning suggests this is not a request but a demand backed by threats. Not at all, Admiral Harrison replied. Those ships are defensive positions, nothing more. Though I should mention that each vessel is currently running peaceful patrol patterns around your world's orbital space. Think of us as neighborhood watch volunteers. Dr. Thierix of the Science Directorate, an amphibious being whose species specialized in technological analysis, activated his personal scanner. What he discovered sent ripples of bioluminescent panic across his skin. These human vessels are generating energy signatures that exceed our theoretical maximums. Their weapon systems alone could ensure that galactic civilization continues to develop peacefully. President Mitchell interrupted smoothly. Earth has no interest in conquest or domination. We simply want to ensure that our planet's sovereignty is respected and our people have the opportunity to contribute to the galactic community as equals. Ambassador Quilath found her voice again. You're threatening the entire council structure. Actually, a new human voice joined the transmission. We're offering to strengthen it considerably. This is Dr. Elena Rodriguez, yes. General Rodriguez's daughter, Director of Human Strategic Planning. We've conducted extensive analysis of galactic political structures over the past several months. The tactical displays shifted to show detailed assessments of every major galactic threat, from rogue AI collectives to extragalactic invasion scenarios. The analysis was comprehensive, sophisticated, and included strategic responses that no council member had ever considered. Earth's proposal is simple, Dr. Rodriguez continued. Humanity offers our strategic thinking, our technological innovation, and our military expertise to help the Council address challenges it doesn't even know it's facing. In return, we want a seat at the table when decisions are made about galactic policy. Chancellor Vorthok's crystalline structure resonated with harmonics of confusion. What challenges? The galaxy has been at peace for over 800 years. The displays changed again, showing intelligence reports on activities in dark space, anomalous signals from neighboring galaxies, and strategic vulnerabilities in Council defense networks that human analysis had identified in mere weeks. Admiral Harrison's voice carried grim satisfaction. Chancellor, your species achieved peace by becoming really good at avoiding conflicts. Americans achieved peace by becoming really good at winning them. The difference is that we notice threats before they become existential crises. President Mitchell resumed control of the transmission. The choice is straightforward. Earth can join the Council as a full member, contributing our unique capabilities to collective security and development. Or Earth can continue developing independently, handling galactic threats as we identify them, with or without Council coordination. The implications hung in the chamber like a physical presence. Several species began agitated communications with their homeworlds, while others retreated into defensive postures that evolutionary psychology had trained them to associate with apex predators. You're asking us to grant membership to a species that achieved interstellar capability through deception and manipulation. Chancellor Vorthok said finally. No, sir, Admiral Harrison replied. We're asking you to recognize that we already achieved interstellar capability through strategic planning and technological innovation. The deception was just making sure you didn't interfere with our development timeline. Dr. Rodriguez added, Americans have a saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Earth prefers being at the table. The council chamber erupted in multilingual debate as species argued among themselves about unprecedented protocols, military implications, and political ramifications. Through it all, the human transmission waited patiently, demonstrating the same calm confidence that had characterized every aspect of their first contact strategy. Finally, Chancellor Vorthak called for order. The Council requires time to deliberate on this unprecedented situation. Of course, President Mitchell replied. Take all the time you need. Our ships will maintain their current positions to ensure peaceful deliberation continues without external interference. The transmission ended, leaving the Council members to confront an uncomfortable new reality. Earth hadn't requested membership in galactic civilization. They had demonstrated that they were already a galactic power, operating by their own rules and timeline. 3 hours later, the vote was unanimous. Earth would be granted immediate full membership in the Galactic Council, with voting rights, territorial sovereignty, and representation on all major committees, not because the Council trusted humanity's peaceful intentions, but because they understood that Americans had spent generations perfecting the art of making their preferred outcomes appear inevitable. Dr. Kelthera, monitoring the proceedings from Earth, watched as human ships gracefully withdrew from their positions around Council worlds, their movement patterns somehow suggesting that the withdrawal was temporary and conditional. As the last vessel disappeared into hyperspace, she realized that galactic civilization had just acquired its most valuable ally and its most dangerous member.